Welcome, welcome, guys, to another episode of the Spring Forward podcast. I'm your host, Spring Richardson-Perry, and today I have a great guest with us. She is going to talk to us about business identity. Her name is Jessica Millhiser, and she is on a mission to help entrepreneurs build better businesses. She's been working hard in operations, administrative, and leadership capacity for over 15 years. She's completed her master's in coaching and administration, and she actually stepped out on her own in January of 2021, and she has not looked back. So please help me welcome Miss Jessica Millhiser.
Hey,
Hello.
hi, Spring. Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. I'm super pumped to be here.
I am excited to have you. Now, first, did I say your last name right? Is it
You
Millhiser?
did, and I'm so excited by that.
Yay! I'm so excited because lately I have been butchering names, and that is so uncharacteristic because take I take pride in getting it right the first time because
hmm
I study it. So I'm excited. I'm back on track.
Well done. Well done.
Well, I'm excited to jump in today to talk about business identity because what I really want to understand is the difference between a business identity and like your personal branding identity. And so I really want to start, first of all, just about your journey and how you came to this point. Like, what made you finally step out on your own and just go ahead and start your business?
Great question. And I'm going to be fully transparent today. Being an entrepreneur was never actually the goal. It was never actually my plan. I was living in Los Angeles. This was pre-COVID. I was like, yes, I'm going to be in administrative athletics, athletic director, running a rec program, whatever, whatever. So that was kind of always my original plan. I was working as a director of ops for a swim school at the time. Then the pandemic happened. Then my husband got laid off. Then we moved from Los Angeles to Colorado. And I was like, oh, dang, what do I do? How can I still work, still function, still make some money? So I was still kind of working remotely with the business in Los Angeles. And then one of that staff broke off to do her own thing. And she was like, hey, Jess, I'm doing this thing, but I really would love your help running a business because I don't really know what's entailed. So I kind of attribute that moment to JMC being born very organically. I was just like, okay, now I'm doing this function for a couple different businesses. Maybe there's something here. So I started to really kind of network, grow, connect, poll, be like, is this a function that people are looking for? And it seemed like it was. So I've kind of just been rolling with it ever since. And it's been a roller coaster. There's been lots of ups and downs. But overall, it has been extremely rewarding and very kind of eye-opening, life-opening. The possibilities of like what my life can, does, and could look like have just really pivoted astronomically since that moment.
I love it. I love when you sort of accidentally fumble into something and then it just completely blows your mind and is like, I never expected it to be like this.
Yes.
And then you had all of these things like, okay, the pandemic happened and my husband got laid off and this happened and
Yes.
that happened. And so you would think in that moment, you want something that is a little bit more traditional, a little bit more consistent because you're like, it's too many things happening at once. Like I need to make sure I
Yeah.
have this one thing, but you went for it and I love it.
Yes. I mean,
No
thankfully my husband was super supportive and I definitely couldn't be doing what I'm doing without his support. So I appreciate that. But yeah, I was just kind of like, F it. Let's go. Let's try it.
Let's
Let's see what
do
happens.
this.
Yeah.
No risk, no reward. I love
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Well, so let's dive into the topic today when we're talking about business identity. How do you define that?
Okay. So this is a great question because I always get asked this question. Business identity is definitely, so you hear like brand identity, brand awareness, all of that stuff. Brand identity and business identity are two separate things. Brand identity is really more about like your website design, your colors, your taglines, some of your marketing content, more of like the aesthetics and things like that. Sometimes it can include mission, vision, values work, but usually you think brand identity and you're like colors, themes, taglines, all that stuff. Business identity should really come before brand identity, because business identity is really getting to the heart of who you are, what you're about, and where you're going as a business. And at its basic core level, yes, it's mission, vision, values. But the way that I teach it, workshop it, work with my clients on it, it makes it much deeper. It becomes this very intrinsic, motivating, central component from which everything that you do for your business stems from. How you make decisions, what you say yes or no to, where you're spending your time, your energy, and your money, how you're defining success, like what that actually looks like to you, and if or does that align with your current vision for your business. So it's really all about that internal alignment with who you are, what you're about, and where you're going as a business.
I absolutely love that because yes, like when we think about branding, we think about the colors, the cute stuff, right? Like,
The
oh, how
font,
yeah,
all
like
of that
how
stuff,
are
which
people
is
going to react to
important.
yeah. But it's like you said, aesthetic, but the business identity goes deeper, and we're
Mhm.
talking mission, vision, values, and the thing that really motivates you in terms of running your business, having your business,
Yes.
and why you started it in the first place. And so tell me why you feel like understanding and defining a business identity, why is that crucial for entrepreneurs?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, if you think about it, right? Like you're a small business owner, you're an entrepreneur. Ultimately, you need to have a really strong understanding of like why you're doing this. Like, why did you decide to become an entrepreneur? Why did you decide to become a business owner? And I get that sometimes things develop organically, and sometimes, like me, like I just kind of sort of rolled into it. But then once I got to a place where I was like, okay, this is really a thing, I needed for myself to understand what my why was. What is the bigger picture? What is the bigger scope of what I do and how I help and who I serve? So that I know internally, this is where I'm trying to go. This is what I'm trying to achieve. This is what I'm trying to accomplish. Here are my goals for success, what my life work balance looks like. So everybody really needs to have a really strong understanding of what that is to keep you going, because we all know that this is hard. This is like, there's no sugarcoating. Being an entrepreneur, being a small business owner, this is hard work. And there are hard days. Sometimes there are hard weeks, right? So knowing that your why is bigger, what your goals are bigger, what is that long-term capacity look like for you?
So yeah, I love that. Number one, that you're calling out entrepreneurship ain't easy,
No,
right?
no,
It
it
is
is not.
it is not for the weak at heart. Like you have to be resilient, and you have to understand your why. And so I love the fact that you really get to the core of the message with the people that you work with, and you really help them connect with that because on those hard weeks, on the on those hard days, during those hard weeks, sometimes hard months, sometimes hard quarters, you
Mhm.
really have to reconnect with your why so that you can continue to push forward.
And I also want to say, like, for me, I really want people to understand that their business identity is a tool. It is a tool and a resource to help you move your business forward, to help you make better business decisions. Because once you have that identity solidified, how you say yes and no to new services, new clients, new opportunities, new choices becomes so much easier. Because if you're like, cool, I'm getting this new opportunity, does it align with my business identity? Yep, let's go, let's get it. If it doesn't, let it go, move on
Bye,
to the next
Felicia.
thing. And you're not just like squirreling or shiny objecting. You're just much more focused and intentional.
Yeah, I love that. That it really does help. And when I'm thinking about this in terms of specifically female business owners,
Mm.
and like just how you really have a passion for helping that specific segment of business owners. Talk to me about um the how a strong business identity um can contribute to the success of female business owners, and like have you seen any differences among female business owners and male business owners?
I don't know I can speak to that fully honestly because I haven't done this work with men, male business owners. Not that I am not interested in doing that. I just tend to work with females because I feel like female entrepreneurs approach business from a very heart centered place. And a lot of times they're juggling family, whether that's aging parents, whether that's young children, whether that's just general spouse life coordination. So I think for females in particular, we are project managers by nature, whether that's our job, our career, our home life, whatever. So I think it's really easy for females to lose track, to maybe feel a little more scattered, to maybe feel like they're pulled in multiple directions. And having the business identity tool available allows you to refocus because it all comes back to focus and intentionality. And if you're a business owner, you have to have focus and intentionality. You have to be consistent and you have to know that, like, okay, here's where I am in my business. Here's where I'm trying to go. Here are my next 3 to 5 action steps. Here are the next 3 to 5 things that are going to help me move the needle. I need to build in time to make sure that these things are happening. And that part of that comes down to boundary setting. Part of that comes down to time management tactics. Part of that comes down to, do you have the ability to delegate in home or in business? Like, what does that look like for you? So really just staying strong and true to, this is where I am. This is where I'm trying to go. These are my next steps. How can I organize my life and my business so that I am staying focused?
Yes, yes. As women, I think we do approach things just from a heart-centered thing, just naturally. And so, oh, when you talk about juggling things, like we just had this
So
conversation.
much.
Kids,
Hey,
family.
where's my balls at? My pins
Yes.
at? My scarves at? Whatever.
You make me think about the jouster back in Middle
Yes.
Ages. Yeah, you know
Yes.
what I mean?
Mhm.
So, oh my goodness. Well, that makes a lot of sense. And like, it's for you, talk to me about how do you establish your own business identity? Because when you stepped out
Mm.
in January of 2021, you had all the things going on. So how did you do it?
Yeah. So I have improved my process with the people that I work with since I did it on my own. And I've actually recently been thinking that it might be worth me revisiting my business identity because obviously things have shifted and changed in the last couple years for me. So I have a very proven process when I work with clients on this, but really for myself, when I did this work, I really had to sit down. I used my husband sat down with me and we kind of did it together because a lot of it is I am a verbal processor. I like to talk things out. I like to ask questions, get ideas, suggestions, bounce things back and forth. That's just how I work best. And ultimately, what I decided was for me, my ultimate mission is to help entrepreneurs build better businesses. And like, yes, my skill set is internal structure, is operations, processes, procedures, team development, all that stuff. But ultimately, all of that helps entrepreneurs build better businesses, build a more sustainable business. So I knew that that was my goal. I want to help people run their business better. I know that as entrepreneurs or small business owners, your business is your passion. Like, you are loving this. You went into this business because you're like, I want to do this thing. I'm super stoked. My job is to help you do that better. So I knew that that was my mission. And then in terms of values, I knew that I really needed myself and those that I worked with to be authentic, because that's the only way that this really works, is if we're true and authentic. I knew that we needed to be reliable. Like, words need to equal action. Action needs to equal words. You need to show up. You need to do what you're going to say, because I'm going to come that way. So it's important that when I'm working with people, that they're going to come that way too. Because this is hard work. The work that I do, the work that we do, is kind of hard work. Like, it's mental, it's fatiguing, it's kind of tedious, but it's so, so vital to the success of your business. So I knew that reliability was important. And I knew that lastly, collaboration was a vital value for me, because this work only works if we collaborate authentically and reliably. So those three value words for me, I knew that it had to be those.
Absolutely. Collaboration is key, right? I
Mm-hmm.
always say that. And
Mm-hmm.
the work that you're doing absolutely is hard work, because
Mm-hmm.
you go into entrepreneurship with an idea, thinking this is what I want to do, this is how I want to help people. And then you have to sort through that,
Mm-hmm.
because you have to figure out, okay, this is how I want to help, but who are the people that need this help?
Mm-hmm.
And what specific help do they need?
Mm-hmm.
And so as you're working with your clients, what are some of the challenges that come up as you're identifying these things?
Challenges in terms of like their like roadblocks. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, so like roadblocks, challenges in terms of getting your clients to really have a clear understanding of what their business um,
Mm,
is doing, what they intend for their business to do.
got you. Got you. So when I do these sessions, it's usually, honestly, my first session is my favorite, because it's basically a Q&A. And it's like we sit down together virtually usually, and I just ask them a bunch of questions. They're deep diving, heart-centered. Let's get to the heart of the matter. Why did you do this? How did you get into this? What inspired you to do this? What are you hoping to achieve? And I find that, especially in the first session, people haven't always thought that deeply about it. Like, they're like, yes, I like this thing and I'm interested in this thing and I'm good at this thing and I want to help in this way. But they haven't truly taken the time, taken the quiet, taken the focus and intentionality behind their actions, like going deeper. Because usually with entrepreneurs, there is a deep seated reason for why you're doing what you're doing. Either you found that there was something that you needed or wanted and it wasn't there. You found that maybe somebody was affected by something and they didn't have the support or resources they need. So you created something out of this. Usually they're creating their entrepreneurship or their business out of some sort of personal event, feeling, situation that happened. And I love identifying what that is for them. What was that moment? What pushed them into becoming an entrepreneur or small business owner? So a lot of times the roadblock is just not sitting. It's not taking the time. It's not reflecting on these deeper questions.
So I'm going to give you an example of me and what I did. And then I want you to tell me, well, okay, let's just start there. So first, why you got into this work, right? And so how I started with this was during the pandemic, I was in education. Excuse me. And I it was chaos, as you
Mm-hmm.
know.
Mm-hmm.
And my kids were like being quarantined, then I would get quarantined. And so I was like, this is nuts. Like, I need to figure out how I'm going to be able to be home with my kids, still provide a living for my family,
Mm-hmm.
but be able to navigate all of these things that were happening in that moment, because I was also going through a divorce at the time, which was like, you know
Yeah,
what I mean?
lots going on.
So it was a lot going on. So I started out doing educational consulting because that's what I was doing. But I just wanted to be completely removed from education because so much was happening in education and it was literally exhausting. And so I then tapped into my HR side because I did HR before I went into education. And I started doing organizational development, strategic planning, and offering HR support. And I would do that for nonprofits, educational institutions, like whether they were a charter, private school, public school, whatever. And then just regular for-profit businesses. But now recently, and then also I was doing career coaching because I would just write resumes like anybody that I was like, oh, call Spring because she does these stellar resumes. So at first I was doing it for free. Then they were like, you know how much people are charging for this? I was like, okay.
Yeah.
Why not? So I was doing that, and then it turned into like career coaching because I would be sending people jobs. Like they would be like, well, what do I do on the interview? Like, how do I do this? And what do I say? And well, they offered me this salary, but I want more. Like, how do I negotiate more? So I was like really like coaching people through this, offering a coaching program, but I didn't even realize it. So so I figured out how to like package that together. And so here is time to spring forward today. But today I have now gone from working with schools and for-profit businesses and nonprofit businesses to focusing strategically on nonprofits because I am literally a nonprofit ninja. Anything you need, governance, compliance, funding, all of those things, writing grants, that's what I do.
Excellent.
And so I have pivoted from, working with all different types of businesses to one specific business, and then also still doing the career coaching. And so I say all of that to say, it's like, what advice would you give to entrepreneurs who are like rediscovering or refining their business identity, like how I did, how I had these different shifts? How would you work with them?
That's a great question. And I think it's important to also say that entrepreneurship shifts. Like I have shifted. I'm transitioning a little bit from where I started. And a lot of the entrepreneurs that I engage with, interact with, work with, they have also shifted. So I would say that shifts are normal. Shifts are absolutely something that happens as you begin to grow, as you begin to maybe change your purpose a little bit and redirect. So whenever somebody does business identity work, I always recommend revisiting it once a year because maybe like it's unlikely probably that like your overall mission and your values change. Like maybe you've had some serious changes happen there, but less likely. The one that is more likely to shift is your vision. So I always recommend sit down once a year, schedule out like an hour and look at your business identity. Look at what it was, look at where you are now, and look at maybe what's changed for you, why it has changed, how it has changed, and what your new trajectory actually looks like. Like if you are pivoting, if you are shifting, why, how, and where are you trying to go now? What is your definition of success now? What is the vision of your business now? And again, shifts are natural, shifts are normal, totally fine. You just have to understand them, recognize them, and then commit to whatever that shift is, and then realign. What are my next 3 points? What are my next 5 points to move me on this new trajectory? But I will say, take time with it. I think sometimes people get caught up in, well, I want to try this thing, or I want to try this thing, or I want to try this thing. And that's fine. Exploration is obviously like a good thing. But if you're trying to run a business, consistency is key. So I think give consistency its due, stay focused on your current projection for like 6 months, and then reevaluate what's working, what's not working, what does in fact need to shift.
Ooh, I love that. You have to give it time to actually work. I think
Mhm,
so many times we're like in this microwave world, right? Where
mhm,
we start something, we want to see immediate results. And when we don't get those immediate results, then we're like, oh, well, this isn't working. But
mhm.
you haven't actually given it time to
You
work.
have to give it time. And it takes time. Like I would say 6 months is maybe too short of time sometimes because
Yeah.
it takes 3 months to really start seeing any kind of real traction. And then, so don't like I understand that pivots and shifts are normal, but that's why I say once a year. Stay focused, stay intentional for at least 6 months, if not 12, and then revisit, then reevaluate and shift where you need to shift then.
Yeah, that makes sense. So tell me, when you see this work and you see it work well,
Mhm.
can you give us an example of how a well-defined business identity has positively impacted some of the businesses that you've worked with?
So I worked with this gal. I'm actually still working with this gal. She was in business for like 20 years, doing her thing, always a solopreneur. And she was finally like, you know what? Like, I'm ready to make a change. I'm ready to make a shift. What do I do? I think I need to like figure out what my new path is. So I was like, okay, let's just start with like business identity work and really get to the heart of who you are, what you're about, and where you're going. Through that work, she recognized that she didn't want to keep doing the day to day stuff that she was doing. And so she realized that she needed to start hiring help. She had never in her wildest dreams thought that she would be leading a team or hiring help, didn't know where to start. So obviously we worked through all that as well. But in her first year of bringing on 2 part-time staff, she doubled her revenue because she had refocused and understood that I am stagnant in my business currently. I need to make some changes. Here are the changes I need to make in order to grow to the next level.
I love that,
Mhm.
especially when you make a decision and that decision um, comes with more money. Like,
Yes. I mean, and that won't always be the case,
right,
but
right.
I had a meeting with her recently, so she's the one that popped in my head. But it was incredible. And like again, she had been a solopreneur for like 20 years prior to that. And we
Wow.
sat down, did the work, and then she was like, wow, in order to go where I think I'm ready to go, here are the changes we need to make. And I was like, yep, let's get to it. And her journey has been incredible.
That's amazing. I mean,
Mhm.
20 years prior, you were just doing
Doing
it
the thing.
alone
Yeah.
by yourself. And then you make a change. And within that year, you see like exponential growth. And so
Mhm.
I love a happy ending like that.
Me
Love it.
too.
Love it. Love
Me
it.
too. Me too. And I will say, a little less revenue focused. A few of the most recent gals that I worked with on this, what happens is when they come in, they're maybe unorganized, maybe a little unsure, uncertain, maybe they're not networking in the right places, maybe their content isn't targeted quite well. By the end of the process, I see the shift. Their confidence increases dramatically. They are so much more empowered to share with the world. Yes, I've got it now. This is who I am. This is what I do. This is who I'm talking to. And so, like, just seeing that confidence shift in that short amount of time is one of the most rewarding things.
I love it. I love it. Thank you so much, Jessica, for dropping this knowledge because I never would have thought about a business identity being separate from the brand itself, right? But it
Mhm.
makes so much sense the way that you've broken it down, and to hear some of the examples that you've given us is just amazing. So I hope you guys were listening. I hope that you took some of these gems away that Jessica has dropped. And if they want to work with you or find out more about what it is that you do, Jessica, how do they get in touch with you?
Yeah, absolutely. First off, the consultation is always free. So we can always just have a conversation. You can email me, jessica@jmillsconsulting.com. I am also on LinkedIn at Jessica Millhiser. And then I'm on Instagram at jmills_consulting. I'd love to connect.
Awesome, guys. So you heard her. You heard how to get in touch with her. She's on LinkedIn, Instagram, or you can shoot her an email and find out more about how you can work with her or the work that she does herself. So thanks so much for being here today, Jessica. Thanks, guys, for tuning in to another episode of the Spring Forward podcast. And until next time, guys. See
Thank
you later.
you. Thank you so much.